Welcome to ClearCue, a frame-accurate timing reference for video editors. It's not AI and it doesn't edit for you. All it does is make time visible, and I'm going to show you how. Here we have the UI. It's straightforward. I select my timing mode, in this case straight time. That's just an even, unmodified timing across the tempo. I'm going to select my tempo. It's 120 BPM here. I'm going to select my time grid, 4/4, otherwise known as signature. I'm going to select my cue duration, 30 seconds, and I'm going to select my frame rate, 30 frames per second. It's important that the frame rate that you select matches the project because ClearCue is frame accurate. If you choose the wrong frame rate or there is a frame rate mismatch, the accuracy will be diminished. I'm going to generate my cue. There we go, done. And now I'm going to do a second cue at 60 BPM, the half time, same settings, 4/4, 30 FPS, 30 seconds, generate. There we go. Now I'm going to come over to Resolve and I'm going to import my cues first. The reason why I'm going to do this is because ClearCue is a video file and Resolve will automatically match the project frame rate to the video file to avoid any mismatch. If, of course, you are mid-project, just make sure that the frame rate matches. I'm going to import my cues. 120 BPM cue here. See, there we go. That's the frame rate. And I'm going to import my 60 BPM cue. There we go. Now, as I said, ClearCues are video files. All I have to do is drag and drop onto the timeline, and here you'll see your ClearCue acts just as any video file here in Resolve. In Final Cut Pro or Premiere, you'll get exactly the same thing with one key difference. Resolve gives you these markers. In Final Cut or Premiere, you'll get the same video file, but with the timing data. It includes a click. That's in all LNLs. This is for guidance, for rhythm. And if you're in Premiere or Final Cut, you can use the transients of the audio lane to quickly drop markers on and enjoy the use of markers on your ClearCue. However, Resolve does this by default. You get the best experience of ClearCue with Resolve. And Resolve, of course, is free. Now, I'm going to take my 60 BPM cue and I'm going to drop it on top here. And you can see now I have two cues, 120 BPM and 60 BPM, 60 BPM being the half time. And for legibility, I'm just going to unlink the cues here. I'm going to remove the 60 on the video file and the audio file on the 120, just for a concise timeline. It's just easier to work with like this. And obviously if you're stacking more than two cues, you can choose any configuration you like. There we go. As you can see, we have our cue set up now. I'm just going to import some media. Let's get some clips at random. And let's drop them into the timeline. The thing about ClearCue is that it encourages editing time first, structure first, rather than music first. So often in editing, we use music to guide pacing. ClearCue flips the equation here, and it says you can set your pacing prior to music, independent of music, which in a lot of ways is far more useful because music requires scrubbing waveforms. It requires locating transients. It also, being emotional, creates a vibe, and you're going to cut to the vibe, whichever way it goes. And of course, in professional work or client work, more often than not, you're going to get that email that comes in saying, I love the track, I love the cut, let's try a different track. And that's where you've grown. You've just spent hours building your edit. to that vibe or to a particular series of vibes, and now you have to recut to a totally different vibe, a different piece of music, and there goes your afternoon, your evening, your weekend, or whatever. ClearCue avoids or makes it possible to not be in that situation, because you can just construct your edits independent of music, completely confident that whatever track you drop in is going to work, because ClearCue is a timing spine. And as you can see here, the markers show you what the pacing is, and we can construct any level of complexity of edit using ClearCue, multiple different cues. We can arrange them like a door. We can create compositions in time and just drop our clips in. Now, ClearCue obviously sets the markers, timing data, to tempo. So you can edit on the downbeat, you can edit off the downbeat. It's entirely up to you. You can cut to the spine or you can cut against the spine. That is your artistic decision. It is just a ruler. It's a scope. It's a scope for pacing. It's a scope for movement. It's a scope for time. Just as an audio meter shows you levels, a color scope shows you color density, ClearCue shows you pacing density. It gives you points in time that you can use as a reference to understand how your edit is developing over time, cutting to or against it. This is incredibly useful to construct edits quickly and dispassionately. And in professional work, dispassion always wins. We don't get attached. And so if we need to revise something, we can just get in there and revise it quick and get out without having to go through the contortions that becoming emotionally engaged with your work always brings. So here you can see I am literally just quickly chucking clips onto the timeline and building my edit. And not having to scrub waveforms or not having to think about music allows me to actually focus on the story. A lot of my mental bandwidth is not being used up with pacing decisions, with trimming, with cutting, with zooming in and out, or any of these things. I am literally able just to place clips onto the timeline, confident in the fact that if I was to hit play, it's going to make sense rhythmically, as we can see here. Obviously, you can become as elaborate as you want with this. It's entirely your call. Now, that's just simple, straightforward. Let me drop in a piece of music to show you what I mean when it comes to music. Right. I'm going to come here. Now, I've got a bunch of tracks here that are at 120 BPM and 60 BPM. And I am confident of the fact that if I drop a track in, it's just going to work. I don't need to watch it. I don't need to scrub backwards and forwards. There we go. Here's an edit I built earlier at 120 BPM and 60 BPM respectively, using those cues to demonstrate something a little bit more sophisticated with the music. Right, let's press play. Right, let's take a different track. There was no retiming for any of these. I just dropped the music in. And let's take another track. let's take another track. It's better if you match the BPMs or the BPMs divide into each other. So 120 BPM, for example, the halftime is 60. If you want 160 BPM, the halftime will be 80. You can experiment with different signatures, time divisions. You can also experiment with different tempos and find the phase relationships between them. And interesting things occur when you start taking a superpositional temporal canvas, as if you will. It sounds very impressive, but if you ran 8 different tempos at 8 different signatures with different patterns, you're going to find an interesting correlation between how they relate to each other and finding interesting patterns within them to cut to. You can get extremely creative. It becomes fractal-like in some ways, but that's definitely something to explore later. At its simplest level, ClearCue gives you a very accurate pacing ruler that you can use to speed up your edits, become less emotionally engaged, unless of course you want to. What becomes overwhelming in editing is often having to hold the pacing in your head, having to work it out, having to think this, nudge, scrub waveforms, all the kind of stuff that actually just eats time. ClearCue removes all of that in a single sweep. It's actually far more effective than beat mapping because beat mapping only works on heavy transient materials. It's useless for ambient music, for anything that doesn't have a defined beat. And of course, why use AI when we don't have to? Something I think will resonate with a lot of creatives out there. Part of the reason why I built ClearCue in the first place. So there we go. That's the demonstration. It's super simple, super easy. You can download 2 free cues, 120 BPM and 60 BPM, and try it for yourself. I think you'll be surprised at actually how easy and fun it is. Thank you.